February 24th, 1836. Just past midnight. Inside the Alamo, a young man sits at a wooden table, candlelight flickering across his face. His hand trembles as he dips his quill in ink. Outside, the temperature has dropped near freezing. The walls are crumbling limestone. The rooms are dark, cold, crowded with exhausted men. And beyond those walls, camped less than a quarter mile away, are over 1,000 Mexican soldiers. Their campfires dot the darkness like fallen stars. Drums beat periodically through the night. A signal, a warning, a promise of what's coming. Lieutenant Colonel William Barret Travis is 26 years old. He commands fewer than 200 men. No reinforcements are coming. No relief column is marching to save them. And he knows, with a certainty that makes his chest tight, that he's going to die here. But first he will write a letter. He begins. To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world. The words flow, defiant, desperate, determined. He writes about the siege, about Santa Anna's demand for surrender, about his own response, never. He writes, I shall never surrender or retreat. He writes, victory or death. And when he's finished, he signs it, folds it, seals it with wax, and gives it to a courier named Albert Martin, who will ride through the darkness, carrying what will become the most famous letter in Texas history. But to understand this letter, to really understand it, you have to understand the man who wrote it. Because William Barret Travis wasn't born a hero. He was born a failure, a debtor, a husband who abandoned his family, a lawyer who couldn't pay his bills, a man who fled one life, hoping to build another. And in 13 days, he would die, trying to prove he was something more. This is his story. August 1st, 1809. Near present-day Saluda, South Carolina. William Barret Travis was born into a respectable but unremarkable farming family in Edgefield County. His father, Mark Travis, was a Baptist minister and farmer, strict, religious, and ambitious for his children. His mother, Jemima, was quiet, dutiful, and deeply pious. William, everyone called him Buck, was the eldest son. And from the moment he could walk, the expectations were clear. Succeed. Rise above the farm. Become something. Mark Travis pushed his children hard. Education, discipline, religion. Buck attended local academies and showed promise. He was smart, quick with words, ambitious. He wanted to be a lawyer. Wanted to wear fine clothes, argue cases, command respect. But he also wanted something else. Escape. Because for all his father's ambitions, the family was poor. Respectably poor, but still poor. They lived in a log cabin, worked the fields, scraped by. And Buck, smart, restless, hungry for more, felt suffocated by it. At 19, he made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. He married. Her name was Rosanna Cato. She was young, from a slightly wealthier family. The marriage was probably motivated by love, but also by practicality. Rosanna's family had connections, resources, and Buck saw an opportunity. In 1829, the couple moved to Claiborne, Alabama, where Buck opened a law practice and started a newspaper. He was young, confident, convinced he was on the path to success. And for a brief moment, it seemed like he might be right. In 1830, Rosanna gave birth to a son, Charles Edward Travis. Buck held the baby and made promises. He would provide. He would succeed. He would give his son everything he'd never had. But within 2 years, those promises would be broken. Claiborne, Alabama, 1831. Everything was falling apart. Travis's law practice wasn't bringing in enough money. His newspaper, the Claiborne Herald, was failing. Advertisers weren't paying. Subscribers weren't renewing. And the debts were piling up. Rent, supplies, printing costs, loans from local merchants, all of it due, all of it unpaid. Buck tried to keep up appearances. He wore nice clothes he couldn't afford. He talked big about cases he wasn't winning. He told Rosanna everything would be fine, but it wasn't fine. Creditors started showing up at his door, threatening lawsuits, threatening jail. In Alabama, unpaid debts could land you in debtor's prison, a cell where you'd rot until someone paid your way out. Buck couldn't let that happen. He had a reputation to protect, a family, a future, but the walls were closing in. And then his marriage collapsed. The details are murky. Travis never talked about it publicly, and Rosanna left almost no record. But what we know is this: by 1831, Rosanna was living separately from Buck. She took their son, Charles, and moved back to her family's home. Some historians believe Buck was unfaithful. Others think Rosanna simply couldn't handle the financial ruin and Buck's constant failures. A few suggest there was violence, emotional, possibly physical. Whatever the truth, the marriage was over. And Buck, faced with debts, a failed career, and a family that wanted nothing to do with him, made a choice. He ran. In early 1831, William Barret Travis abandoned Alabama. He left behind his wife, his son, his creditors, and his reputation. He rode west, toward the frontier, toward a place where no one knew his name. He also left Rosanna pregnant with their second child, a daughter he would never meet, and under a cloud of suspicion after a rumored killing. He rode toward Texas. 1831. San Felipe de Austin, Mexican Texas. When Travis arrived in Texas, he was a ghost. No family, no money, no past he wanted to talk about. But Texas didn't care about your past. Texas cared about what you could do. And Buck Travis, despite his failures, could practice law. He could write. He could speak. And in a territory filling up with American settlers, those skills were valuable. He opened a law office in San Felipe de Austin, the colonial capital of Stephen F. Austin settlement. He took on land disputes, debt cases, contract negotiations, and he was good. Better than he'd been in Alabama. Maybe because this time, he had something to prove. He also threw himself into politics. Texas in the early 1830s was a powder keg. The Mexican government was tightening control. New tariffs, new garrisons, restrictions on immigration. The American settlers, Texians they called themselves, were growing restless. And Travis saw an opportunity. In 1832, he joined a group of settlers protesting Mexican customs enforcement at Anahuac, a port on Galveston Bay. Mexican soldiers had been collecting tariffs aggressively, and the Texians were furious. Travis didn't just protest, he organized. He wrote inflammatory letters. He gathered armed men. And when Mexican troops arrested the protest leader, Travis led a militia to demand his release. It was bold, reckless, and it made him famous. It came with a price. He was arrested, thrown into a damp brick prison for months, and nearly died. Experiences that turned him from a hothead into a committed revolutionary. Suddenly, William Barret Travis, the failed lawyer from Alabama, was being talked about as a patriot, a defender of liberty, a man willing to stand up to tyranny. It was exactly what he needed. A new identity, a second chance, but it also made him a target. By 1835, tensions between Texas and Mexico had reached a breaking point. General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna had seized power in Mexico and dissolved the Federalist Constitution of 1824. He was consolidating authority, crushing dissent, and cracking down on the American settlers in Texas. War was inevitable. In October 1835, the first shots were fired at Gonzales. By November, Texian forces had driven Mexican troops out of San Antonio. And in December, Travis, now a lieutenant colonel in the Texas Volunteer Army, was ordered to recruit men and reinforce the garrison at San Antonio. The garrison was stationed at the Alamo, a former Spanish mission converted into a makeshift fort. It was crumbling, undermanned, and strategically questionable. Some Texian leaders wanted to abandon it. Others, like James Bowie, believed it could be defended. Travis thought it was a death trap, but he also couldn't refuse the order. He had built his new identity around courage, defiance, and patriotism. Refusing would destroy that, so he went. Reluctantly, resentfully, but he went. Like many Texian officers, Travis brought his enslaved teenage servant Joe into the Alamo. Joe would be one of the few survivors and an important witness. When Travis arrived at the Alamo in February 1836, he found chaos. James Bowie, legendary frontiersman, knife fighter, and land speculator, was the volunteer commander. Bowie had charisma, experience, and the loyalty of the men. Travis had rank, and neither man liked the other. Bowie thought Travis was a pompous lawyer playing soldier. Travis thought Bowie was a drunk and a liability. The two clashed immediately. They agreed to share command, Bowie leading the volunteers, Travis leading the regulars. It was a fragile compromise, and it lasted less than a week. February 23rd, 1836. Mid-morning. A lookout on the bell tower of San Fernando Church rang the alarm. Mexican cavalry was approaching from the west. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Travis rode to the top of the tower and looked out. His stomach dropped. Santa Anna's army stretched across the horizon. Infantry. Cavalry. Artillery. Thousands of soldiers. And at their head, the red, white, and green flag of Mexico, and a black banner. No quarter. No mercy. Travis ordered everyone into the Alamo. Civilians. Soldiers. Livestock. Supplies. Everything. The gates were sealed. Guards posted. Cannons loaded. And then Travis made a decision that would define the siege. He fired the 18-pounder cannon on the southwest wall. A single shot aimed at the Mexican position. It was a statement. We will not surrender. We will fight. Santa Anna's response was swift. Mexican artillery began bombarding the Alamo. Not heavily, not yet. Just enough to remind the defenders, we are here, and we are not leaving. That night, James Bowie collapsed. Fever, chills, violent coughing. Some historians think it was typhoid. Others say pneumonia or tuberculosis. Most likely advanced tuberculosis or pneumonia. What matters is that by February 24th, Bowie was bedridden, unable to command. Travis was now in sole command of the Alamo. He was 26 years old. He had fewer than 200 men, and he had no idea if help was coming. That night, he sat down and wrote the letter. Commandancy of the Alamo, Bajar, February 24th, 1836. To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world, fellow citizens and compatriots, I am besieged by 1,000 or more of the Mexicans under Santa Anna. The letter was brilliant, defiant, desperate. Travis described the siege. He called for reinforcements, and then he wrote the line that would echo through Texas history. I shall never surrender or retreat. Then I call on you in the name of liberty, of patriotism, and everything dear to the American character, to come to our aid with all dispatch. If this call is neglected, I am determined to sustain myself as long as possible and die like a soldier who never forgets what is due to his own honor and that of his country, victory or death. He signed it, William Barret Travis. The letter was given to Captain Albert Martin, who rode out under cover of darkness. Martin delivered it to Gonzales, where it was copied and sent to other settlements. It spread slowly, agonizingly slowly, across Texas, but almost no one came. 32 men from Gonzales rode to the Alamo on March 1st. That was it. 32. Travis kept writing letters, begging for help, promising glory, warning of disaster. But the response was the same. Silence. Texas was in chaos. The provisional government was fractured. Sam Houston was trying to organize an army. Settlers were fleeing east in panic, and the men at the Alamo were alone. March 5th, 1836. Evening. 13 days. The siege had lasted 13 days. The walls were crumbling from artillery fire. Ammunition was running low. Food was scarce. The men were exhausted, and Santa Anna had raised the red flag again. No quarter. Tomorrow, he would attack. Travis knew. The Mexican army had been massing for days. Ladders had been built. Soldiers had been drilling. It was coming. That night, Travis gathered his men. According to legend, and historians debate this endlessly, he drew a line in the dirt with his sword and said, "Those willing to die for Texas, cross this line." Did it happen? Maybe. The tale comes from a single, much later source and is almost certainly myth. Probably not in the dramatic way the story tells it, but something happened that night. A moment where Travis asked his men, "Will you stay? Will you fight?" And they said yes, all of them, except one. Moses Rose, a Frenchman who had fought with Napoleon, reportedly climbed the wall and escaped. The rest stayed. Travis also wrote a final letter, not to Texas, not to the world, to his son. "Take care of my little boy. If the country should be saved, I may make him a splendid fortune. But if the country should be lost and I should perish, he will have nothing but the proud recollection that he's the son of a man who died for his country." He never sent it. It was found among his belongings after the battle. That night, Travis barely slept. He walked the walls, checked the cannons, spoke quietly with the men, and prayed. Outside, the Mexican drums beat the deguelo, the signal of no mercy, no prisoners, no surrender. At 5 a.m., the drums stopped, and the assault began. March 6th, 1836, dawn. The Mexican soldiers came in waves, thousands of them, charging from all sides. Ladders raised, muskets firing, screaming. Travis was on the north wall. He fired his shotgun into the mass of soldiers climbing the outer defenses. Loaded. Fired again. And then, a musket ball hit him. Some accounts say he was shot in the head and died instantly. Others say he was shot in the chest and died on the wall. Creditable eyewitness say a musket ball to the forehead. He died instantly on the north wall. What's certain is that William Barret Travis was one of the first defenders to fall. The battle lasted 90 minutes. Mexican soldiers breached the north wall. They poured into the compound. The defenders fell back, fighting room to room. Cannons were turned, bayonets fixed. Men fought with knives, rifle butts, bare hands. James Bowie, still bedridden, was killed in his room, shot multiple times, possibly bayoneted. Davy Crockett and the men defending the chapel were overwhelmed. The exact details of Crockett's death remain disputed. Some say he died fighting, others say he was captured and executed, but he died. By 6:30 a.m., it was over. Every defender was dead. Nearly 200 men. Santa Anna ordered the bodies burned. They were piled on wooden pyres and set ablaze. The smoke rose over San Antonio for days. Travis's body was burned with the rest. No grave, no marker, just ash. So who was William Barret Travis? The legend says, a hero, a martyr, a man who gave his life for Texas liberty. The reality is more complicated. Travis was flawed. He abandoned his wife and son. He fled debts. He was arrogant, ambitious, and often difficult to work with. He craved recognition, glory, fame, but he was also brave. When faced with impossible odds, he didn't run. even though he easily could have. He wrote letters that inspired a revolution. He led men who trusted him, and he died defending a cause he believed in. The line in the sand story, probably exaggerated, maybe even invented by a later writer. But something like it happened. Travis gave his men a choice, and they chose to stay. The victory or death letter? Real. Every word. And it changed history. Because that letter, copied, reprinted, read aloud in towns across Texas, became the rallying cry. Remember the Alamo wouldn't have meant anything without Travis's words to back it up. 6 weeks after the Alamo fell, Sam Houston's army destroyed Santa Anna's forces at San Jacinto. Texas won its independence, and William Barret Travis became a legend. His flaws were erased, his failures forgotten. He became the perfect hero, young, brave, unblemished. But the truth is better than the legend, because Travis wasn't perfect. He was human, and he chose, despite everything, to become something more than he had been. To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world, those words still echo. Nearly 200 years later, we still read Travis's letter, still quote it, still feel the weight of it. Why? Because it's not just about the Alamo, it's about defiance, about refusing to quit even when the odds are hopeless, about standing for something bigger than yourself. Travis wasn't born a hero. He was born ordinary. He failed. He ran. He made mistakes. But in those 13 days at the Alamo, he became someone else. Not perfect, not unblemished, but brave. And that bravery, flawed, human, real, is what we remember. His letter saved Texas. Not with reinforcements, they never came, but with words, with inspiration, with the promise that some things are worth dying for. William Barret Travis died at 26. He never saw his son again, never cleared his debts, never redeemed his failures in Alabama. But he wrote a letter, and that letter, copied by hand, carried across Texas, read in town squares and around campfires, lit a fire that burned all the way to San Jacinto. Victory or death. Travis got death. Texas got victory. And we got a story. Complicated, flawed, human, true. This is Texas. This is our history. And this was William Barret Travis, the man who drew the line. If you want more real Texas history, the myths, the truths, the people behind the legends, hit that like button and subscribe to Texas Tales. Because every hero was human first, and their real stories are always more interesting than the legends